Right? The goal of a stemmer is to take a word in a way in which it occurs in text and to reduce it to a root form, to reduce it to something that you could use as an indexing unit in your search engine. So you want to take words like politician, politicians, policy, and reduce them to politics. Right? And all of these guys reduce them to police in some way or another. And then you could index, any of those words would be indexed as politics, and in the query they would also appear as politics, so you'd be able to match things effectively. So we're going to briefly look at a couple of stemmers for the English language, and then some ideas for what you do when you don't have a stemmer. So probably the most well-known stemmer for English is called the Porter stemmer. It's a rule-based stemmer. Basically, it's a huge set of rules that you apply to words in a particular sequence. It's mostly about suffix stripping, because that's the kind of morphology that you see in English. English likes to tack on suffixes to the roots. And what Porter does is it basically peels off suffixes one by one and decides when it's going to stop. It's a pretty good stemmer. It produces stems as opposed to words, so the units coming out of Porter are not, they're not words. When you look at them, they're basically a chunk of a word and not a complete word. It does make a number of mistakes. It is, in many respects, slightly overly aggressive. So Porter stemmer, for example, will conflate policy and police to the same token. It'll be P-O-L-I-C, polic. That's the term that it'll produce from both of them. I guess, Porter, if you're looking for an implementation of Porter, there is an implementation of Porter at the Snowball project. And Snowball, by the way, contains stemmers for a whole range of European languages. So that's a good resource to go to. Another stemmer I wanted to mention, there's a Krovitz stemmer. So it's a rule-based stemmer with a large exception list. The way it operates is fairly similar to Porter. It strips suffixes, but what it does as well is it interleaves this suffix stripping with a sequence of dictionary lookups. So it takes the word, it tries to look it up in its dictionary of exceptions. If it finds it, then it takes the class that's listed in the dictionary. If not, it tries to do some of the suffix stripping, and as it does that, it keeps looking it up in the list of exceptions. Why is that necessary? Because English has lots and lots of exceptions, right? English does not have a regular morphology. It has a morphology that's fine for maybe 70 or 60% of the words, and then the other, if you want to get the other 20 or 30%, you really have to have extensive lists of exceptions, and that's what Krovitz stemmer does. So this was a massive effort. It took like 11 years to build. It's a really good stemmer. It has a lower false positive rate, so it doesn't map policy to police, so you will not accidentally match those things. But it does have a slightly higher false negative rate. Right? So occasionally it will not conflate two things to the same stem as Porter would do. Another big difference between Porter and Krovitz, Krovitz actually produces words because it's dictionary-based. So it will eventually find a dictionary entry that corresponds to whatever it is that you're trying to stem, and it'll output that. So it produces well-formed words.